Exhibit R8. So, just to refresh your memory, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And Judge, can you scroll to the next page, please? Is that your signature down at the bottom there?
Yes.
And the date of January 3rd, 2019?
Correct.
So would Arcadia, if you're saying December, that probably would have been 2018?
Yes.
Okay. So did Arcadia contact you specifically on their initial contact?
No.
Okay, who did they talk to?
Ashley?
And that's Ashley Martell?
Correct.
When did she make you aware of this contact?
That same morning.
Okay. So after Ashley told you that Arcadia had contacted her, what did you do?
I would have called Krista and looked at
And who's
pulled her file.
okay? And who's Krista?
She was our boss.
Okay. Um, did you ever call back Arcadia?
Yes.
Do you remember what they said during your conversation?
I remember her saying that she worked there and she was termed for performance.
Okay. Do you remember when they said they let her go? What the date was when they terminated her?
I cannot remember a date off the top of my hand.
Was it recent to when you talked to them?
Yes, she had said it was recent.
Okay. And then what did you do after talking to Arcadia?
I would have had a conversation with Krista.
Okay. Judge, can we please go back to Exhibit R1 and the second page of that exhibit? This is what we want right there. So this is Exhibit R1, which you said was Ms. Bates' employment application. Did Ms. Bates list Arcadia as a previous employer anywhere on her employment application?
No.
Okay. So prior to being contacted by Arcadia in December of 2018, did you know that Ms. Bates worked for Arcadia?
No.
After Arcadia contacted you, did you or anyone else at Artisan do anything to see if Ms. Bates had worked there for Arcadia?
We would have pulled our schedules.
Okay. Did you personally review the schedules?
It was probably me and Ashley together.
Okay. Do you remember what you guys saw after reviewing the schedules?
That Annie was on the schedule.
Did you know that she was on the schedule working for Arcadia before reviewing them?
No.
Why wouldn't you have known that she worked there if her name was on the schedule?
I wasn't at the building in PMs or nights. Ashley did a lot of the scheduling.
Okay, so by saying PMs and nights, is that would Ms. Bates have predominantly worked the PM and night shifts?
Yes.
Okay, and that was outside of when you would typically be at the building?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever meet Ms. Bates while she was working there through Arcadia?
No.
Okay. So after receiving the call from Arcadia saying that Ms. Bates worked there, you said that you talked to Krista McCook and Ashley Martell. What did you discuss with them?
The findings of what Arcadia had told us.
After receiving a call from Arcadia, did you go back and look at Ms. Bates' job application?
Yes.
And you saw that Arcadia wasn't listed on it, correct?
Correct.
So Ms. Bates worked for Arcadia, but didn't list it on her job application. Is that right?
Yes.
So based upon Ms. Bates working for Arcadia and not including it, do you believe that she truthfully or accurately completed her job application?
No.
Um, based on the information that Arcadia told you during your phone call that she had worked there before, was the information that Ms. Bates supplied on her job application accurate?
No.
And why was that?
Arcadia is not listed.
Okay. Were any decisions made about Mrs. Bates or Ms. Bates' employment following these discussions with Krista and Ashley?
We did come to the decision to terminate.
And so you were involved in that decision to terminate her employment?
Yes.
Um, how did you, Krista, and Ashley come to the decision to terminate Ms. Bates' employment?
I would say the biggest thing was not being honest.
Okay. Did you consider any other aggravating factors, things that, pushed you towards terminating her employment?
Um, Nothing I can think of at the moment.
Okay. Did you consider any factors weighing against terminating Ms. Bates' employment? Was there anything that you considered which would make you think twice about terminating her employment?
No. I would want an honest employee.
Okay. Um, with terminating an employee, is that something that you ever want to do?
No.
Is it difficult to fill positions within the residential care field?
It is. Yes.
So by losing someone, you'd just have one less person in a short-staffed industry. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. In making your decision to terminate Ms. Bates' employment, did her race, color, or pregnancy play any part?
No.
Was there any discussion of her race, color, or pregnancy in making the termination decision?
No.
And then ultimately, the reason that we're here today is because Artisan did decide to terminate Ms. Bates' employment, correct?
Correct.
So based upon your testimony, is it correct that you both made the decision to hire and to fire Ms. Bates?
Yes.
And throughout this time, you knew that she was African American or Black?
Yes.
Okay. Were you involved in other termination decisions during your employment at the De Pere facility?
Yes.
Were you involved in the termination of any white or Caucasian employees?
Yes.
What about the termination of any non-pregnant employees?
Yes.
What about any male employees?
I'm sure. Yes.
Okay. During your employment with Artisan, were you ever involved in any other situation where an employee submitted a falsified employment application?
No.
So you weren't aware of any other employees that submitted false job applications?
No.
Okay. So wrapping up here, based upon your 10 plus years of experience in residential care, do you believe that honesty was an important quality for Artisan employees?
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, we work with a frail population. We need people to be honest and caring. And if they're not, then we can get in a lot of trouble.
Okay. So based on your experience, do you think that dishonesty is a character trait that's consistent with employment in a residential care facility?
No.
If so apart from the employment application, if someone who is working for Artisan falsified or fabricated documentation, could that have consequences for Artisan?
Yes.
What kind of consequences?
We could face fines from the state. Because they're responsible for documentation also on resident files, which
Okay.
we can get in a lot of trouble for.
So if someone did not accurately or truthfully fulfill or fill out documentation, which was required by the state, there could be disciplinary measures, consequences from the state of Wisconsin.
Yes.
No more questions right now, Judge.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Bates?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I guess I like to ask, how long had you known my niece, Leticia Kelly, before I started working for the company?
I would have to look back at her file to see when she started working.
Can we just, accurately say that she had been working for the company for well over 6 months before I started there?
I'd object. That calls for speculation.
Okay.
You can answer the question, Ms. St. Jean.
I'm not sure on the timeline.
Okay. Do you, okay, well, when my niece Leticia was working there, can we correctly identify that you met me on a more personal level through my niece and that my niece told you that I was a CNA?
No, I do not remember that.
You don't remember that? Do you remember that my niece also worked for the company Arcadia?
No.
Okay. All right. Were you aware that I already had medication license through the state of Wisconsin upon my hiring of Artisan?
No.
You wasn't aware of that? That part of you guys's caregiver check and all that good stuff? For you to pull my license to see whether I'm a valid CNA or not?
I would have to see that form.
Okay. Um, is discrimination a part of workplace normal practices there at Arcadia?
Can you repeat?
Is discrimination a part of the workplace practices there at Artisan?
Yes, we don't discriminate.
Okay. And during the interview that I had with you, and actually you don't remember us discussing that I was pregnant and due to have a baby within a few months?
No.
No recollection of it at all, huh?
I cannot remember. No.
And then isn't it part of the employee's right to be warned or have some type of written paperwork when being disciplined?
I guess I'm not understanding what you're asking.
I'm asking, isn't there a procedure for when you fire someone from a job? Do you just fire someone, at the drop, or isn't there a procedure? Is there a write-up first? Is there a verbal warning that you have to give first, or you just fire people?
We have documentation that we would follow.
Okay, did you follow any of that documentation when you fired me?
Yes, I believe we did.
Okay, because I didn't get anything. I didn't get any form of discipline or anything, and my job was gone. So that's why I'm asking the questions. But I don't have anything else for you.
I have a few questions for you. Um, well, I guess first of all, you had said that you didn't have the conversation with someone from Arcadia. It was Ashley Martell, correct?
Correct.
And what did she tell you Arcadia told her?
That they had termed her.
Do you know why Arcadia reached out to her to tell her that they termed Miss Bates?
If I remember correctly, it was because one of our staff members had signed something and and then Arcadia seen that it was her signature.
After this communication with Arcadia, who made the decision to look back at Miss Bates's application for employment?
That would have been me and Ashley.
Why did you make that decision?
Just to look and see if it was on there.
And why to see if it was on there though?
After Arcadia had called us
Yes.
to see if it was on her application.
Did you, after reviewing the application that Miss Bates submitted, did you talk to her at all about why Arcadia wasn't listed on her application?
I cannot remember if there was a conversation prior to talking with my boss. I can't remember the exact timeline.
Some point, did you tell Miss Bates that she was not to report to work while you were looking through and kind of determining what you were going to do about this matter?
It probably would have happened, yes.
And do you recall how Miss Bates learned that her employment was being terminated by Artisan?
I cannot remember if it was in person or on the phone. I wish I could turn back time to remember that.
Other than this issue with the application, did you have any other concerns about Miss Bates's honesty while she worked at Artisan?
No, the only thing she came up to me was about med passing.
So did Miss Bates talk or ask you about med passing at some point during her employment?
Yes.
And generally, how soon after someone is employed as at the exact term, the lead resident assistant, that you train someone on med passing?
It all just depends on how comfortable they are.
What do you mean by that?
It could be weeks to a month, 2 months. I know we used to like them to be comfortable with the residents first.
Do you recall when Miss Bates came to you about med passing and wanting to med pass?
No,
So you would know how soon after it was that she was working for Artisan that she first brought that to your attention?
no.
Attorney Woodson, do you have any other questions for Miss St. Jean?
If I could just have 1 second, just reread through my notes here. I guess One thing that I would follow up on is, so Ms. Bates brought up medication passing licenses through the state. Are those different than what Arcadia requires to be able to pass medications within the facility?
I'm not, I don't know.
Okay, so if someone
I'll
showed
just
up and had-
interject. I think you said Arcadia, not
sorry.
Artisan.
sorry,
I don't know if that changes your answer at all.
sorry, I'll rephrase it. So if Ms. Bates had a medication passing certificate or license through the state, would Artisan still require her to undergo its facility specific training?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess I would follow up with, so you don't recall when Ms. Bates asked about medication passing, correct?
I can't remember a specific timeline.
But would Artisan assign employees to be trained to pass medication without them asking?
If they were interested.
So, but an employee would have to come to Artisan first and say, I would like to pass medication before they would be trained.
Yes.
And if an employee wanted to pass medication, presumably they have to be trained by someone.
Yes.
And if the person doing the training was sick or otherwise out of the facility, that person could not be trained, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I've got, Judge.
Who typically trained employees on med passing? Was there a specific person who would train the employees?
The certified med techs would do the training.
Do you recall who or how many certified med techs worked at Artisan when Miss Bates was there?
I would say 4 to 5 on various shifts.
And then you had mentioned just now that you would train someone if they expressed an interest in passing meds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Didn't Miss Bates initially express an interest in passing meds when she interviewed with you?
I'm sure she probably did. Yes.
Miss Bates, do you have any other questions for Miss St. Jean?
Yes. As of right now, when I got hired for the job, I put down the med tech position, but you said that there was no med tech position at the time. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And you used the term med tech. Why did you use the term med tech versus team lead or resident lead?
I don't know.
Okay, that's all I got.
Anything else, Attorney Woodson?
Yes. Related to that med tech question, to confirm, the certified med tech was not an independent position. That's just what you were called, people who were trained to pass meds.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. And then even if Ms. Bates had talked about passing medications during her interview, would you still have wanted her to get familiar with the facility and its residents prior to training her?
Yes.
So you would not have started her training on her first day or necessarily even her first week.
That is correct.
Okay, that's all, Judge.
Anything else, Miss Bates? Any other questions, Miss Bates, for this witness?
No.
All right, then, Miss St. Jean, thank you for your testimony. You're free to leave at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Tara.
It looks like the next witnesses here, Ashley Martell. Should I just bring her in or does anybody need a break?
I'm ready to keep going, Judge.
Yeah, we can keep.
All right, then I'm gonna bring her in. Just gonna stop showing this for a second. Ms. Martell, all right. I need to swear you in before we take your testimony. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. And could you state your name and spell it for us, please, for the record?
Ashley Martell, ASHLEY MARTELL.
Right. Attorney Woodson's going to start by asking you some questions, and then Ms. Bates may have some questions for you, and I may as well. So Attorney Woodson, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
So I guess to start off, because I've been getting into the examinations, if I ask a bad question or if you want clarification, I'm sure I'll ask a bad question. Please just ask me to restate it. If I notice while I'm saying it that it's confusing, I'll try to fix it. But if you've got any questions or if you need me to rephrase it, please let me know.
Okay.
So how long have you been working in residential care?
About 15 years.
Was that, did you say 16? It cut out a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay,
Yep.
16. What was your position with Artisan between November 2018 and January 2019?
Assistant director
And where did you work?
in Deep Gear.
And was that the Artisan Senior Living Facility?
Correct.
So working at the De Pere facility, when you were working there, how many residents did the facility have?
I don't know the exact number, but we could hold up to 40 residents at the time.
Okay. And how many staff members were there in total?
Roughly 20.
How many staff members worked per shift? Or on each shift, sorry.
2 to 3 caregivers on day shift and PM shift, and 2 on the night shift.
Okay. During the relevant time frame, not necessarily between November 2018 and January 2019 specifically, but around there. Do you remember there being other or pregnant employees?
You
Sorry,
said
did you-
something, but I don't think we heard you.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Do you remember how many?
There were a few.
Okay, so more than one?
Yes.
Okay. So as assistant director, what shift or what times did you work? November 18th,
Normal
2019.
business hours, 8 to 4, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay. And what were your general job duties as assistant director?
I was a nurse. I'm a nurse too, so I did basic nursing duties. I did scheduling, payroll, maintaining and keeping up with care plans and resident charts.
Okay. So when you were scheduling employees, what did your scheduling duties consist of?
I would basically just go off a master schedule and then make adjustments if people requested days off or needed training or changes in their schedule, and then assigning med passers for the day or the shift.
Okay, so did you schedule leads for their shifts?
Yes.
And how many leads would you schedule per shift?
0 to sometimes 2.
So by saying 0, sometimes there would be no leads on a shift and sometimes there would be 2?
Correct.
Okay. Was there a paper schedule in the facility?
Yeah.
How did you indicate what employees were team leads on the work schedule?
We would put TL after their name.
Okay. Did you list anything else on the schedule with initials?
We would put an M if they were going to be passing meds.
Okay. So if you listed someone as a TL on the schedule, as a team lead, did that affect what their duties would be for the day?
No.
Okay. And assuming if someone has put an M as a med passer, then they would be passing medication that day.
Correct.
Okay. if a lead didn't have TL next to their name, were they paid less on that day?
No.
And you did payroll, correct? You said that?
Yep.
Okay. And so having TL next to their name, that didn't affect anything apart from if it didn't have TL next to their name.
Correct.
Okay. If an employee did have TL next to their name, would they only have to supervise employees on that day?
No.
Would they still have to care for patients?
Yes.
Did you schedule temporary employees?
Yes.
Okay. Where did temporary employees come from? Were there particular staffing agencies?
Arcadia, and then there was another one. I don't recall the name of it.
Okay, so Arcadia was a staffing agency that you used.
Correct.
Okay, so when scheduling temporary employees, did you know who would be coming to the facility as a temp for a particular shift?
Not always.
Okay. When you did know who was coming in for a shift, what information were you provided?
Their first name.
Okay, so if you had called Arcadia and asked for a temp and they said if they were going to send me, they'd say John. They wouldn't say John Woodson.
They would give the full name the first time the person came from the staffing agency, and then once they'd been there, then they would just use first names.
Okay, so they only gave employees first names or full names the first time they worked at the facility.
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever see or interact with temporary workers?
If they came in on day shift or the PM shift, I would see them and interact, but not if they were on night shift.
Okay. So we talked before about the lead resident assistants. That was a job position within the facility.
Correct.
Okay. Judge, can we pull up Exhibit R7? Okay. Could you take a minute or two to read through this document, and as you need to scroll down, just let the judge know. She'll help us out.
Okay. Can you scroll down?
It's a couple pages, so let me know when you get to the bottom and need me to scroll down to the next page.
I'm done with the first page.
Okay.